The cameras adored them. The trophies confirmed it. The crowds worshipped their every move. But behind the flashing lights lies a second life, a darker one. Many of the stars you watch shining on stage, surrounded by glory and applause, carry secrets carefully buried far from the spotlight. Tonight, we're opening 35 case files on celebrities who weren't just controversial. They were arrested for serious crimes: athletes, rappers, actors, people the world once believed were untouchable. And here's the question that should make you uneasy. When fame becomes armor, what does it turn people into? If you want the rest of these stories, raw, shocking, and backed by real records, hit subscribe right now and tell me in the comments, which name do you think will be the most disturbing? Kelly. For decades, R. Kelly was untouchable. His voice floated through radios, weddings, churches, and stadiums. Songs like I Believe I Can Fly made him more than a singer. They made him a symbol of hope. Millions believed in the man behind the music. But behind the curtain, another world existed. Beginning in the late 1990s, whispers followed Kelly everywhere. Stories about young girls, closed hotel rooms, parents searching desperately for daughters who had disappeared into his orbit. At first, the rumors sounded unbelievable. After all, how could a superstar adored by millions possibly be hiding something so monstrous? But the pattern kept repeating. Young, aspiring singers were invited into his circle with promises of fame. Inside that world, control replaced opportunity. Some victims later described rooms where windows were sealed shut, phone calls monitored. Basic freedoms like eating or using the bathroom required his permission. Anyone who resisted faced humiliation, intimidation, or worse. In 2002, the first major scandal exploded. A videotape surfaced allegedly showing Kelly engaged in sexual acts with an underage girl. The case rocked the music industry. Yet in 2008, after a long and chaotic trial, he was acquitted. To many fans, that meant the accusations were lies. For years, his career continued almost untouched. The hits kept playing. The tours kept selling out. Then came 2019. The documentary, Surviving R. Kelly, aired, and suddenly the silence shattered. Dozens of women stepped forward with stories that were disturbingly similar: manipulation, abuse, control. What once sounded like rumors now formed a chilling pattern. Federal investigators stepped in. That summer, Kelly was arrested on multiple federal charges including sex trafficking and racketeering. Prosecutors described his operation not as the actions of one man, but as a system designed to recruit and control victims over decades. In 2022, the verdict arrived. 30 years in federal prison. Then another 20 years added by a Chicago court in 2023. The man who once sold over 100 million records now spends his days inside a prison cell. His music, once a soundtrack of inspiration, is forever overshadowed by the voices of those who say they were trapped behind the fame. For Kelly, the fall wasn't sudden. It was a truth that waited decades before finally breaking into the light. O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was once America's golden man, football royalty, a living highlight reel, the kind of celebrity who could smile on a commercial and make a nation feel safe. Then came 1995, the trial that split the country in two. When the verdict said not guilty, he walked out free, but he didn't walk out clean. After that day, trust leaked out of his life like air from a punctured tire. Deals vanished. Friends kept their distance. And in 1997, the civil judgment hit like a hammer, $33.5 million owed to the families. Fame couldn't pay that bill. By 2007, his world had shrunk to a desperate idea: take back what's mine. September 13th, Las Vegas. Neon lights outside. A locked hotel room inside, where the past came back wearing a mask of rage. O.J. didn't come alone. 5 men with him. The air turned tight, heavy. 2 sports memorabilia dealers stared in disbelief as the legend they once profited from became the threat in front of them. Voices rose. Orders snapped. Weapons appeared. And suddenly it wasn't nostalgia, it was a robbery. Collectibles worth over $100,000 swept away like trophies stolen from a fallen king. In his mind, it was justice. In the eyes of the law, it was a felony. The cruelest twist? It was recorded. Not by police, by someone on his own side. Within a day, the cuffs were real. And on October 3, 2008, 13 years after escaping a murder conviction, another jury looked at him and didn't blink. Guilty. 33 years, with parole possible after 9. When he finally walked out in 2017, he wasn't a hero returning. He was a warning. Because sometimes, the court isn't the end of the story. Sometimes, it's just the moment the downfall becomes permanent. Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur was more than a rapper. To millions of fans, he was the voice of a generation. His music spoke about racism, poverty, injustice, and the brutal realities of life on America's streets. Songs like Dear Mama and Keep Your Head Up showed a man capable of both fury and compassion. Tupac wasn't just performing pain, he had lived it. Born to a mother involved in the Black Panther movement, Tupac grew up surrounded by political struggle, police surveillance, and constant instability. Poverty followed him everywhere. His mother battled drug addiction, and the young boy who loved poetry often found himself navigating dangerous streets just to survive. That contradiction defined him. Part activist, part artist, part angry young man searching for identity. But by the early 1990s, Tupac's fame was rising rapidly, and so were the controversies surrounding him. In November 1993, Tupac met a 19-year-old woman named Ayanna Jackson at Nell's nightclub in Manhattan. According to Jackson, the two flirted and later had consensual sex at his hotel. But a few days later, she said Tupac invited her back to the same hotel room. This time, she claimed the situation turned into something far darker. Jackson testified that several men were present when she arrived. She alleged that Tupac and members of his entourage sexually assaulted her. In court, she described being held down while the men attacked her one after another. The accusations sent shockwaves through the music industry, especially because Tupac often spoke publicly about respecting women. Tupac denied the allegations. He admitted that he had sex with Jackson but insisted it was consensual. According to him, the other men acted on their own and he had nothing to do with the assault. The case became a media circus, with fans and critics fiercely divided over the truth. Then something even stranger happened. On November 30, 1994, just days before the verdict, Tupac was shot 5 times during a robbery at a recording studio in New York. Bleeding and barely able to walk, he still appeared in court shortly afterward, shocking everyone in the room. Despite his defense, the jury reached its decision. In February 1995, Tupac was convicted of first-degree sexual abuse, though he was acquitted of the most serious rape charges. The judge sentenced him to 1.5 to 4.5 years in prison. He began serving time at Clinton Correctional Facility, but his stay didn't last long. Music mogul Suge Knight posted $1.4 million bail, securing Tupac's release after only 8 months in exchange for signing with Death Row Records. Freedom returned him to the spotlight, but also back into a world of violence and rivalry. Just 1 year later, on September 7, 1996, Tupac was shot multiple times in Las Vegas. 6 days later, the voice that had shaken hip-hop fell silent forever. He was 25 years old, Mike Tyson. In the late 1980s, Mike Tyson wasn't just a champion. He was a phenomenon. At only 20 years old, Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history. His fights rarely lasted long. Opponents fell in seconds under punches that looked almost unreal. Fans called him Iron Mike. To the world, he seemed unstoppable, a force of pure destruction inside the ring. But outside the ropes, Tyson's life was chaos. He grew up in the rough neighborhoods of Brooklyn, surrounded by crime, poverty, and violence. His father disappeared early. His mother struggled with addiction. Tyson was arrested more than 30 times before turning 13. For him, survival meant fighting. Boxing became the only structure in a life that had never known stability. When fame arrived, it arrived fast. Millions of dollars, luxury mansions, endless parties, women, drugs, and a circle of people eager to profit from his fame. Tyson had power, but very little control over the storm inside his own mind. That storm exploded in 1991. During the Miss Black America pageant in Indianapolis, Tyson met Desiree Washington, an 18-year-old contestant. According to her testimony, Tyson invited her to his hotel room later that night, saying he wanted to talk privately. But once inside the room, she said the situation turned terrifying. Washington testified that Tyson attacked her, forced her onto the bed, and raped her despite her protests. After the assault, she left the hotel shaken and immediately reported the incident. A medical examination later documented injuries consistent with her account. The case quickly became one of the most shocking celebrity trials of the decade. In January 1992, Tyson's trial began. The courtroom was packed with reporters and cameras. Tyson insisted the encounter was consensual. His lawyers attacked Washington's credibility, trying to cast doubt on her story. But the evidence weighed heavily. After weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for less than 10 hours before delivering the verdict. Guilty. Mike Tyson was sentenced to 6 years in prison with 4 years of probation. For the most feared fighter in the world, the fall was staggering. The man who once ruled arenas was now just another inmate inside the Indiana Youth Center. He served nearly 3 years before being released in 1995 for good behavior. Tyson eventually returned to boxing and won championships again. But something had changed forever. The aura of invincibility was gone. Because outside the ring, there are fights even champions can't win. George Floyd. Long before his name echoed across the world, George Floyd was simply another young man trying to find a way out of poverty. Growing up in Houston's 3rd Ward, one of the city's toughest neighborhoods, Floyd showed promise early. He stood nearly 6 feet 6 inches tall, played basketball well, and even earned a college scholarship. Friends remembered him as a gentle giant with a big smile and dreams of doing something bigger with his life. But the streets around him were unforgiving. Violence, drugs, and crime shaped the environment Floyd grew up in. Opportunities were scarce, and many young men around him slipped into the underground economy just to survive. Over time, Floyd did too. What started as small mistakes slowly turned into a pattern of arrests. The most serious incident came in 2007. On the night of August 9th, a terrifying home invasion unfolded in Houston. According to police records, a group of 6 men forced their way into the home of a pregnant woman. The intruders held her at gunpoint while searching the house for money and valuables. Investigators later identified George Floyd as one of the men involved. Court documents described how the victim was threatened with a gun while the group ransacked the home. Cash, phones, and other items were taken before the men fled. The robbery left the victim traumatized and sparked a major police investigation. Within days, authorities tracked down the suspects. Floyd was arrested and charged with aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon, one of the most serious robbery charges under Texas law. His criminal history already included several previous arrests related to drugs and theft, which made the case even more damaging in court. In 2009, Floyd accepted a plea deal and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. For a time, it seemed like another life had been derailed by bad decisions and the harsh reality of the streets. But prison eventually became a turning point. After his release in 2013, Floyd tried to rebuild his life. He left Houston behind and moved to Minneapolis, hoping distance from his past would help him start again. He found work as a security guard and delivery driver and became involved with local church programs that helped struggling communities. For several years, he appeared to be slowly moving forward. Then came May 25, 2020. During an arrest over suspected counterfeit money, police officer Derek Chauvin pressed his knee on Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes while Floyd repeatedly said he couldn't breathe. Bystanders filmed the entire incident. Within hours, the footage spread across the internet. George Floyd died that day. And the man who once had a troubled past suddenly became the center of a global movement about justice, policing, and the value of human life. Kodak Black. Kodak Black rose from the streets of Florida with the kind of raw talent that hip-hop loves to celebrate. His voice was rough, emotional, and unmistakably real. Songs like No Flockin' and Tunnel Vision quickly turned him into one of the most promising young rappers in America. Millions of streams, major label deals, and a rapidly growing fanbase made it seem like he had escaped the streets that raised him. But the streets never really let go. Kodak Black was born as an octave in Pompano Beach, Florida, an area plagued by poverty and gang violence. Raised by a single mother who had immigrated from Haiti, he spent much of his childhood surrounded by drugs, crime, and instability. By the time he was a teenager, police already knew his name. What began as petty offenses slowly escalated into serious charges. In 2016, just as his career was beginning to explode, Kodak became entangled in one of the most disturbing incidents of his life. Authorities accused him and several associates of kidnapping and assaulting a man in Florida. According to investigators, the victim was ambushed, tied up, and taken to an abandoned house where he was beaten and threatened for hours. The charges were severe: armed robbery, kidnapping, and aggravated assault. If convicted on all counts, Kodak Black could have faced decades in prison, potentially ending his career before it had truly begun. But after posting bail, he returned to the spotlight, though the legal problems continued to follow him. Over the next few years, his criminal record kept growing. There were arrests for drug possession, illegal weapons, probation violations, and incidents involving firearms shown on social media. Each time he seemed to rise in music, another court case threatened to drag him back down. The most serious federal case arrived in 2019. Prosecutors revealed that Kodak Black had lied on federal gun purchase forms, falsely claiming he had no criminal history that would prevent him from buying weapons. The charges carried a possible sentence of up to 10 years in federal prison. That year, the court sentenced him to 46 months behind bars. For a rising rap star in his early 20s, it looked like the end of his momentum. Yet in a dramatic twist, Kodak received an unexpected lifeline. In January 2021, during his final day in office, President Donald Trump granted Kodak Black a presidential pardon, cutting short his sentence and releasing him early. Freedom returned him to music almost immediately. But the cycle of controversy didn't disappear. In 2022, he was arrested again after police found oxycodone pills and large amounts of cash in his vehicle. Once again, headlines questioned whether the young rapper could ever escape the gravity of his past. For Kodak Black, fame opened doors that once seemed impossible. But the shadows of the streets he grew up in have never been far behind. Few voices in hip-hop were as raw and unforgettable as DMX. When he barked into a microphone, it sounded less like music and more like a man releasing years of pain. Songs like Rough Riders Anthem, Party Up, and X-Gon, Give It To Ya turned him into one of the biggest rap stars of the late 1990s. At his peak, DMX dominated the charts with a rare feat, 5 consecutive albums debuting at number 1. But behind the explosive performances was a man haunted by trauma. DMX, born Earl Simmons, grew up in Yonkers, New York. His childhood was brutal. His mother frequently beat him, sometimes with belts or electrical cords. At just 14 years old, he was sent to a juvenile detention center where another trauma changed his life forever. A man he trusted secretly laced his marijuana with crack cocaine, introducing him to an addiction that would follow him for decades. From that moment, drugs became a shadow he could never quite escape. Even while his music career exploded, DMX was constantly in trouble with the law. His criminal record stretched across years of arrests involving drugs, weapons, reckless driving, and probation violations. It seemed that every success in the studio was matched by chaos outside it. One of the most bizarre incidents occurred in 2008 at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. Authorities accused DMX and an accomplice of impersonating federal agents. According to police reports, the pair confronted a man in the airport parking lot, claiming they were law enforcement officers. They searched the victim, threatened him, and ultimately stole his vehicle before fleeing the scene. The situation escalated quickly when police tracked DMX down. When officers arrested him, they also discovered cocaine in his possession, adding another serious charge to the list. Although the case could have resulted in a lengthy sentence, DMX received a relatively short punishment, 90 days in jail. But the legal troubles didn't stop there. In 2017, federal prosecutors revealed that DMX had evaded taxes for over a decade, hiding $1.7 million in income from the IRS. Investigators said he deliberately used cash payments and even false identities to conceal his earnings. Facing the possibility of 44 years in prison, DMX eventually pleaded guilty. In 2018, a judge sentenced him to 1 year in federal prison and ordered him to pay more than $2 million in restitution and fines. By the time he walked out, the damage was already done. Years of addiction had taken a heavy toll on both his career and his health. Then in April 2021, tragedy struck. DMX suffered a drug overdose that triggered a heart attack, leaving him in a coma for several days. Despite efforts by doctors, the legendary rapper passed away at the age of 50. In the end, DMX wasn't just a superstar with a criminal record. He was a man fighting demons that fame, money, and success were never powerful enough to defeat. Don King. Today, Don King is remembered as one of the most powerful promoters in boxing history. His towering hair, booming voice, and larger-than-life personality turned him into a symbol of the sport's golden age. He promoted legendary fights like the Rumble in the Jungle between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman and managed champions including Mike Tyson and Larry Holmes. But long before he became boxing's most famous promoter, Don King lived a life far removed from bright arenas and million-dollar deals. He grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, in a neighborhood where violence and illegal gambling were part of everyday survival. Without strong guidance or opportunities, King became deeply involved in the underground economy. By the 1960s, he was already running an illegal gambling operation and building a reputation as a ruthless street operator. That ruthless reputation led to a tragedy that would follow him for the rest of his life. On April 20, 1966, a confrontation erupted between King and a man named Sam Garrett, one of the gamblers who frequently visited King's operation. Garrett reportedly owed King $600, a considerable amount of money at the time. The argument quickly turned violent. Witnesses later testified that King attacked Garrett and repeatedly struck him during the altercation. Garrett's head hit the pavement during the beating, and he suffered severe injuries. When police arrived at the scene, Garrett was unconscious and bleeding heavily. He later died in the hospital. King was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, a charge that could have sent him to prison for life. The case shocked Cleveland because the killing had taken place in public, with multiple witnesses watching the confrontation unfold. Yet the trial ended in a far different outcome than many expected. King's defense team successfully argued for a reduced charge, and the court eventually convicted him of manslaughter instead of murder. Instead of life in prison, he received a much lighter sentence. Don King served 3 years and 11 months behind bars. When he was released in 1971, few could have imagined what would happen next. Instead of returning to the streets, King reinvented himself in the world of boxing promotion. With relentless ambition and sharp negotiating skills, he quickly rose to the top of the sports business side. Within a decade, he was orchestrating some of the most lucrative fights in history. But controversy never fully left him. Over the years, multiple fighters, including Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali, accused King of manipulating contracts and withholding millions of dollars in earnings. Lawsuits and financial disputes followed him throughout his career. Despite the accusations, Don King remained one of boxing's most influential figures. His life stands as one of the strangest transformations in sports history. From a man convicted in a deadly street fight, to the promoter behind some of the biggest fights the world has ever seen, Wesley Snipes. At the height of his career, Wesley Snipes was one of Hollywood's most powerful action stars. With razor-sharp charisma and unmatched martial arts skills, he dominated the 1990s box office. Films like Blade, Passenger 57, New Jack City, and Demolition Man turned him into a global superstar. Studios trusted him with blockbuster budgets, and audiences loved the fearless characters he brought to life. But behind the cameras, a very different battle was unfolding. Despite earning tens of millions of dollars, Snipes became entangled with a controversial financial group that promoted a dangerous idea: that U.S. citizens were not legally required to pay federal income taxes. The theory sounded rebellious and appealing to some wealthy individuals looking for ways to avoid massive tax bills. Snipes believed it. For years, he stopped filing tax returns altogether. Instead, he submitted documents claiming he owed nothing to the government. According to investigators, he used complex financial arrangements and questionable paperwork in an attempt to hide income and avoid detection. But the IRS had been watching quietly. By the early 2000s, federal investigators concluded that Snipes had failed to pay taxes for 5 consecutive years, avoiding more than $7 million owed to the government. The case quickly turned into one of the most shocking financial scandals involving a Hollywood celebrity. In 2006, a federal grand jury indicted Wesley Snipes on multiple tax-related charges. The trial that followed attracted enormous attention. Prosecutors presented evidence showing years of unpaid taxes and false filings. Snipes' defense team argued that he had relied on bad advice from financial consultants and had not intentionally tried to break the law. But the jury wasn't convinced. In 2008, Wesley Snipes was convicted on 3 misdemeanor counts of failing to file tax returns. While he avoided the most serious felony charges, the court still delivered a historic sentence. The judge ordered him to serve 3 years in federal prison, one of the harshest punishments ever given to a Hollywood actor for tax violations. On December 9, 2010, the man who once played the unstoppable vampire Hunter Blade was escorted into McKean Federal Correctional Institution in Pennsylvania. For nearly 28 months, Snipes lived as inmate rather than movie star. When he was released in 2013, he returned to Hollywood hoping to rebuild his career. But the industry had already moved forward without him. The massive roles, the blockbuster contracts, and the unstoppable momentum of the 1990s were gone. Wesley Snipes eventually returned to acting in smaller projects, but the shadow of his legal battle never fully disappeared. For one of Hollywood's brightest stars, the fall didn't come from scandal or violence. It came from a belief that the law simply didn't apply to him. Chris Brown. In the mid-2000s, Chris Brown looked like the perfect R&B superstar in the making. Young, talented, and charismatic, he burst onto the music scene with hits like Run It, With You, and Forever. Fans adored him, critics praised his dancing and vocals, and his relationship with pop icon Rihanna made them one of the most glamorous couples in the music industry. From the outside, it seemed like a fairy tale. But on one night in February 2009, everything collapsed. The evening began like many others during Grammy weekend in Los Angeles. Chris Brown and Rihanna attended a high-profile pre-Grammy party together, smiling for cameras and appearing inseparable. No one watching the red carpet could have imagined that hours later their relationship would turn into one of the most shocking scandals in pop music history. Around 1:30 a.m. on February 8, 2009, the two were driving away from the party in Brown's Lamborghini when an argument erupted. According to police reports, Rihanna discovered a text message on Brown's phone from another woman. What began as a heated exchange quickly spiraled out of control. Investigators later reported that Brown punched Rihanna in the face multiple times while they were still inside the car. The attack escalated into a violent struggle. Rihanna attempted to defend herself, but Brown continued striking her, slamming her head against the car window and choking her. At one point, according to the police affidavit, Brown allegedly threatened to kill her. By the time the assault ended, Rihanna's face was severely bruised and swollen. Blood stained her clothing and the interior of the vehicle. When photos of her injuries later leaked to the media, the images shocked the world. The public reaction was immediate. Chris Brown, once seen as the charming good boy of R&B, was suddenly viewed as a violent abuser. Within days, he was arrested and charged with felony assault and criminal threats, crimes that carried the possibility of up to 9 years in prison. But the legal outcome surprised many. In June 2009, Brown accepted a plea deal. Instead of prison time, he received 5 years of probation, 180 days of community service, and a 5-year restraining order preventing contact with Rihanna. Legally, the case was closed. But socially, the damage was enormous. Major brands cut ties with him. Radio stations stopped playing his music. Fans who once idolized him turned away in disappointment. The scandal became one of the most infamous celebrity abuse cases in modern entertainment. Over the years, Chris Brown continued releasing music and rebuilding parts of his career. Yet the night of February 2009 remains a permanent shadow over his legacy. Because sometimes, one moment of rage is enough to change how the world sees you forever. Lil Wayne. For years, Lil Wayne was untouchable in hip-hop. With his raspy voice, relentless work ethic, and lyrical creativity, he transformed rap in the 2000s. Albums like The Carter III produced global hits such as Lollipop and A Milli, selling millions and turning him into one of the most influential rappers of his generation. But one night in New York nearly destroyed everything. On July 22, 2007, Lil Wayne had just finished performing at a major concert in Manhattan. The night seemed like any other for a superstar surrounded by fame and celebration. After the show, he climbed onto his tour bus with his crew, ready to leave the venue. Moments later, police approached the bus. Officers reported smelling marijuana coming from inside the vehicle. That alone was enough to trigger a search. What they found quickly turned a minor situation into a serious criminal case. Inside a bag belonging to Lil Wayne, police discovered a loaded .40 caliber handgun. In New York City, strict gun laws make possession of an unlicensed firearm a major felony. It didn't matter that he was a global rap star. The law treated him like any other suspect. Wayne was arrested on the spot. The case dragged on for nearly 2 years, with his legal team fighting to dismiss the charges. But forensic testing eventually linked his fingerprints and DNA to the weapon, leaving little room for defense. In October 2009, Lil Wayne pleaded guilty to criminal possession of a weapon. The sentence was harsh but clear. On March 8, 2010, the rap superstar reported to Rikers Island, one of the most notorious jail complexes in the United States. For someone used to luxury studios, private jets, and screaming fans, prison life was a brutal shock. Wayne spent 8 months behind bars, including periods in solitary confinement after being caught with unauthorized electronic devices. But during that time, he kept writing. When he was released in November 2010, Lil Wayne returned to music with renewed intensity. His career eventually recovered, and he continued to dominate charts and collaborations across the industry. Still, the arrest served as a reminder that even the biggest stars can fall quickly when fame collides with the law. For Lil Wayne, a single weapon hidden in a bag was enough to turn a rap legend into inmate number 026592748, if only for a while. In the mid-2000s, T.I. wasn't just another rapper, he was known as the King of the South. With chart-topping hits like What You Know, Whatever You Like, and Live Your Life, he dominated hip-hop radio and built a massive music empire. Awards piled up, money flowed in, and his influence stretched far beyond the rap world. But in 2007, everything nearly collapsed. That October, T.I. was preparing for one of the biggest nights of his career, the BET Hip Hop Awards in Atlanta. He was scheduled to perform in front of millions of viewers. Behind the scenes, however, federal agents had been watching him for weeks. The FBI believed the rap superstar was trying to illegally purchase a large cache of weapons. On October 13, 2007, T.I. arrived at a parking lot in Atlanta carrying $12,000 in cash. Waiting for him was a man he believed to be a gun dealer. In reality, the seller was an undercover federal agent, and the entire transaction was part of a sting operation. The moment the weapons were handed over, agents moved in. Within seconds, T.I. was surrounded and placed in handcuffs. Investigators seized a shocking arsenal: 3 machine guns, 2 assault rifles, and several handguns, along with large amounts of ammunition and silencers. For prosecutors, the case was serious. Because T.I. already had a previous felony conviction, federal law prohibited him from possessing any firearms at all. The charges meant he could face up to 10 years in federal prison. The arrest stunned the music industry. Just hours earlier, he had been preparing to celebrate another milestone in his career. Now he was the headline of a federal weapons case. Facing overwhelming evidence, T.I. eventually pleaded guilty. In 2009, a judge sentenced him to 1 year and 1 day in prison, followed by probation and community service. Though the sentence was shorter than many expected, the damage to his reputation was significant. When T.I. was released in 2010, he tried to rebuild his career and image. He returned to music, television, and business ventures, slowly regaining public attention. Yet the arrest remained a powerful reminder of how quickly success can collide with past influences. T.I. once said he bought the weapons because he feared for his safety in a world filled with enemies and violence. But the law saw something different, a superstar making a dangerous decision that nearly cost him everything. Young Thug. For years, Young Thug was one of the most influential voices in modern hip-hop. With his unpredictable flow and boundary-breaking style, songs like Lifestyle, Hot, and Ski helped redefine what rap could sound like. To fans, he wasn't just a rapper. He was a cultural innovator who shaped a new generation of artists. But in 2022, a stunning police operation revealed a darker narrative behind the music. On May 9, 2022, Atlanta authorities launched a massive raid on Young Thug's mansion. Cameras captured the moment he was escorted out in handcuffs, shocking fans across the world. Prosecutors soon announced the charges. Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams, was accused of leading a criminal organization under the RICO Act, the same law often used to dismantle mafia networks. According to investigators, YSL, Young Slime Life, widely known as his music label, was actually a street gang responsible for a long list of crimes, including drug trafficking, weapons possession, and violent attacks. Perhaps the most controversial part of the case was the evidence itself. Prosecutors cited rap lyrics from Young Thug's songs as proof of criminal activity, arguing that some of the lines described real events tied to the alleged gang operations. The move sparked heated debates across the music industry about whether artistic expression could be used as legal evidence. Young Thug denied the accusations, maintaining that YSL was simply a music collective, not a criminal enterprise. Still, the case became one of the most complex trials in hip-hop history, involving dozens of defendants, hundreds of pieces of evidence, and testimony from former associates. For a man who had once turned street struggles into chart-topping music, the courtroom suddenly replaced the recording studio. And the future of one of rap's biggest stars now rests not in the hands of fans, but in the hands of a jury. In the late 1990s, Lil' Kim was the undisputed queen of rap. With her bold style, fearless lyrics, and commanding presence, she helped redefine the image of women in hip-hop. Hits like Crush on You, No Time, and Lady Marmalade turned her into one of the most influential female rappers of all time. But the same fierce loyalty that built her reputation would eventually bring her downfall. On February 25, 2001, violence erupted outside Hot 97, one of New York's most powerful hip-hop radio stations. Lil' Kim had just finished an interview when a confrontation broke out between members of her entourage and associates of rival rappers Capone and Noreaga. Within seconds, the argument exploded into chaos. Gunshots rang out as more than 20 bullets were fired in the street. One man was seriously injured, and the shooters quickly fled the scene. The incident immediately triggered a massive police investigation. Authorities soon discovered that several people involved in the shooting were members of Lil' Kim's inner circle. When she was called to testify before a federal grand jury, Lil' Kim insisted she had seen nothing and did not recognize the suspects. Under oath, she repeatedly denied being present when the violence occurred. But the FBI had already gathered powerful evidence. Surveillance footage placed her at the scene. Phone records and testimony from her own bodyguard confirmed that she had watched the events unfold. When prosecutors revealed the proof, the case shifted dramatically. Lil' Kim wasn't charged for the shooting itself. Instead, she was charged with perjury and obstruction of justice for lying to a federal grand jury. In 2005, the court delivered its verdict. Lil' Kim was sentenced to 1 year and 1 day in federal prison, followed by probation and a substantial fine. For the woman once crowned hip-hop royalty, the fall was swift and humiliating. When she walked out of prison in 2006, she attempted to revive her music career. But the scandal had already changed how the industry viewed her. Lil' Kim had built her legacy on fearlessness. Yet in the end, it wasn't the bullets outside Hot 97 that cost her the most. It was the lie told inside a courtroom. Gucci Mane. Before his transformation into a disciplined music mogul, Gucci Mane was one of the most unpredictable figures in hip-hop. With gritty street anthems like Lemonade and Wasted, he helped shape Atlanta's trap music scene and built a loyal fan base. But his life offstage often mirrored the chaos in his lyrics. In May 2005, a violent confrontation changed everything. While staying at an apartment in Atlanta, several armed men reportedly attempted to rob Gucci Mane. Instead of fleeing, he pulled out a gun and opened fire. Days later, the body of Pookie Lock, a member of a rival group, was discovered in a wooded area outside the city. Police quickly arrested Gucci Mane and charged him with murder. The case drew major attention across the hip-hop world, but prosecutors struggled to build a solid case. Witnesses refused to testify, and the evidence could not definitively prove what had happened during the confrontation. In 2006, the murder charge was dropped, with Gucci Mane claiming self-defense. Although he avoided a life sentence, his legal troubles were far from over. Years of arrests involving drugs, weapons, and probation violations continued to follow him. Finally, in 2014, a federal court sentenced him to 3 years in prison for illegal firearm possession. But prison became a turning point. When Gucci Mane was released in 2016, fans were stunned by the change. He appeared healthier, focused, and determined to rebuild his life. He abandoned drugs, returned to music, and slowly transformed his image. Today, Gucci Mane is often cited as one of hip-hop's rare examples of a star who truly managed to turn his life around after years of crime and chaos. Rick Ross. Rick Ross built his reputation in hip-hop as a larger-than-life figure. With his deep voice and luxurious imagery, songs like Hustlin', BMF, and Aston Martin music turned him into one of rap's most powerful moguls. He founded Maybach Music Group, signed major artists, and lived the kind of lavish lifestyle many rappers only rapped about. But in 2015, a violent accusation nearly shattered that empire. On June 7, 2015, police responded to a disturbing report at Rick Ross's massive Georgia estate. According to investigators, a gardener working on the property had been severely assaulted after being accused of damaging part of the house. Authorities claimed Ross and his bodyguard locked the man in a room and attacked him, striking him repeatedly and threatening him with a weapon. When police arrived, the victim reportedly suffered significant injuries. The allegations were serious. Rick Ross was arrested and charged with kidnapping, aggravated assault, and aggravated battery, crimes that could have resulted in decades behind bars. His arrest stunned fans and quickly dominated headlines across the music world. Within hours, Ross posted a staggering $2 million bail, one of the largest bonds in Georgia at the time. After months of legal negotiations, the case eventually ended in 2017 with a plea deal. Ross pleaded no contest to a reduced charge and received 5 years of probation, avoiding prison time. Although the sentence spared him from jail, the incident revealed how quickly fame and power can collide with violence. Rick Ross returned to music and business ventures soon after. Yet the case remains a stark reminder that even the biggest figures in hip-hop can find themselves facing the same courtroom reality as anyone else. Michael Vick. In the early 2000s, Michael Vick was one of the most electrifying players the NFL had ever seen. As the star quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, his speed and powerful arm made him a superstar. Fans packed stadiums just to watch him play, and his contract was worth over $130 million. But in 2007, a shocking investigation destroyed everything. Federal agents raided Vick's property in Virginia and uncovered a brutal dogfighting operation. More than 70 pit bulls were found chained in cages, many badly injured. Authorities also discovered the remains of several dogs buried on the property, killed after losing fights. Prosecutors said Vick not only funded the operation but also participated in the killings of dogs that failed to perform. The public reaction was furious. Sponsors immediately cut ties with him, the NFL suspended him indefinitely, and the case quickly became one of the biggest scandals in sports history. In December 2007, Michael Vick was sentenced to 23 months in federal prison. After serving his time, he returned to the NFL in 2009 and eventually rebuilt part of his career. But the controversy forever changed how many people viewed one of football's most talented players, Ja Rule. At the beginning of the 2000s, Ja Rule was everywhere. With his signature raspy voice and emotional hooks, he dominated the charts with hits like Always on Time, Mesmerize, and Livin' It Up. Millions of albums sold, platinum records, and collaborations with the biggest stars made him one of hip-hop's most recognizable names. But behind the success, legal trouble was quietly building. In July 2007, while driving through Manhattan, Ja Rule's luxury car was stopped by police during a routine traffic check. Officers searched the vehicle and discovered a loaded semi-automatic handgun hidden inside. In New York, strict gun laws meant the discovery instantly turned into a serious criminal case. Ja Rule was arrested and later convicted of criminal possession of a weapon. The court sentenced him to 2 years in prison, ending a long legal battle. But that wasn't the end of his problems. Around the same time, federal investigators uncovered another issue: tax evasion. Prosecutors said Ja Rule had failed to pay taxes on more than $3 million in income. That case resulted in an additional prison sentence. By 2011, the once dominant rap star entered prison to serve both sentences. For a man who had once ruled radio airwaves and stadium crowds, the fall was a brutal reminder that even the brightest success in music can disappear when legal trouble takes center stage. James Brown. Few musicians have influenced modern music like James Brown. Known as the Godfather of Soul, his electrifying performances and timeless hits like I Got You, I Feel Good, and Papa's Got a Brand New Bag reshaped funk, soul, and rhythm and blues. His energy on stage made him a global icon. But off stage, Brown struggled with growing personal turmoil. By the late 1980s, pressure, financial problems, and drug use began to take a toll on his life. Reports later revealed that he had developed a serious addiction to PCP, a powerful hallucinogenic drug that can cause paranoia and violent behavior. Everything exploded on September 24, 1988. That day, Brown entered an office building in Augusta, Georgia, angrily confronting employees over what he believed was a disturbance involving his personal belongings. Witnesses said he was carrying a gun and acting erratically. When police arrived, Brown refused to surrender. Instead, he jumped into his truck and sped away, triggering a dramatic police chase across 2 states. Officers pursued him for miles before finally forcing his vehicle off the road. Brown was arrested and later convicted on multiple charges, including assault and drug-related offenses. The court sentenced him to 6 years in prison, though he was released after serving about 3. The man who once commanded stadiums now faced a very different stage. A prison cell far removed from the spotlight he once ruled. Mystika. In the early 2000s, Mystikal was one of the most explosive voices in Southern hip-hop. His aggressive delivery and energetic hits like Shake Ya Ass and Danger, Been So Long, made him a major force in rap, especially through his work with No Limit Records. But in 2003, his career collapsed under the weight of a shocking crime. On July 18, 2003, police in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, received a disturbing report from a woman who claimed she had been sexually assaulted by Mystikal and 2 associates. According to investigators, the victim had been forced into sexual acts while the assault was recorded on video. The case grew even more disturbing when authorities learned that the attackers allegedly forced the woman to withdraw money from an ATM afterward, attempting to intimidate her into silence. When the videotape became evidence in court, the case against Mystikal was nearly impossible to deny. In January 2004, he was convicted of sexual battery and extortion and sentenced to 6 years in prison. The ruling instantly ended his momentum in the music industry and turned the once celebrated rapper into a registered sex offender. Mystikal was released in 2010, but his reputation had already been permanently damaged. For a rapper whose career once seemed unstoppable, the scandal became the moment that erased years of success in a single devastating fall. C-Murder. C-Murder, born Corey Miller, was one of the fiercest voices in Southern hip-hop. As the brother of rap mogul Master P and a star of No Limit Records, he built a reputation through gritty street anthems like Down for My Ends. His music reflected the harsh realities of the streets, and fans embraced his raw authenticity. But in January 2002, his life took a dark and irreversible turn. At the Platinum Club in Harvey, Louisiana, an argument broke out between C-Murder and 16-year-old Steve Thomas. Witnesses later testified that the confrontation escalated quickly inside the crowded nightclub. In the chaos, a gun was fired. Steve Thomas collapsed with a fatal gunshot wound. Police arrested C-Murder days later, charging him with second-degree murder. The case dragged on for years through multiple trials and appeals, but in 2009, a jury finally convicted him. The court sentenced him to life in prison without parole. For a rapper whose name once symbolized power and street dominance, the reality became something far different. A lifetime behind bars, Shyne. At the end of the 1990s, Shyne was one of the most promising new artists in hip-hop. Signed to Bad Boy Records by Sean P. Diddy Combs, he was often compared to the late Notorious B.I.G. because of his deep voice and gritty lyrical style. With a $1 million contract and powerful backing from the industry, his future looked incredibly bright. But one violent night changed everything. On December 27, 1999, a celebration inside Club New York suddenly turned into chaos. Shyne was there with Diddy and singer Jennifer Lopez when an argument broke out between their group and other clubgoers. Moments later, gunshots erupted. In the panic, 3 people were injured. Police quickly arrived and arrested several individuals connected to the incident, including Shyne. During the trial, prosecutors argued that Shyne was the one who fired the weapon. While Diddy and Lopez were eventually cleared of wrongdoing, Shyne was found guilty of assault and reckless endangerment. In 2001, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. After serving his time, Shyne was released in 2009, but because he was not a U.S. citizen, he was immediately deported to Belize, the country of his birth. The rapper who once stood on the brink of hip-hop superstardom suddenly found himself starting over in a completely different life. Bobby Shmurda. In 2014, Bobby Shmurda exploded onto the music scene almost overnight. His song Hot N** went viral across the internet, and the famous Shmoney dance became a cultural phenomenon. For a moment, the young rapper from Brooklyn looked like hip-hop's next breakout superstar. But behind the sudden fame was a darker reality. Bobby Shmurda, whose real name is Aquil Pollard, was closely associated with a Brooklyn street gang known as GS9. Investigators had already been monitoring the group for months, linking them to a series of violent crimes across New York. On December 17, 2014, police launched a major crackdown. Officers arrested Bobby Shmurda along with more than a dozen alleged gang members at a recording studio in Manhattan. Prosecutors accused the group of conspiracy, weapons possession, and involvement in multiple shootings. Faced with serious charges that could have kept him behind bars for decades, Bobby eventually accepted a plea deal. In 2016, he was sentenced to 7 years in prison. After serving most of his sentence, Bobby Shmurda was released in February 2021. But the story of his rise and fall remains one of hip-hop's most dramatic examples of how quickly viral fame can collide with the harsh reality of the law. Pimp C. In Southern hip-hop, Pimp C was a legend. As one half of the influential duo UGK, Underground Kings, alongside Bun B, he helped define the sound of the Dirty South with classics like Big Pimpin' and International Players Anthem. His blunt personality and uncompromising attitude made him both respected and feared in the rap world. But that same temper would eventually land him in serious trouble. In 2002, an argument erupted at a shopping center in Texas between Pimp C and a woman. Witnesses later reported that the confrontation escalated rapidly. In the heat of the dispute, Pimp C allegedly pulled out a gun and threatened her, causing panic among people nearby. Police were called immediately. When officers arrived, they confiscated the weapon and arrested him for aggravated assault with a firearm. Because of prior legal issues, the charges carried severe consequences. The court eventually sentenced Pimp C to 8 years in prison. After serving several years, he was released in 2006 and attempted to rebuild his career with UGK. Sadly, his comeback would be short-lived. In December 2007, Pimp C was found dead in a Los Angeles hotel room from an accidental overdose. For a rapper who helped shape an entire region of hip-hop, his life ended as dramatically as it had been lived. Flavor Flav. In the world of hip-hop, Flavor Flav was impossible to ignore. As the energetic hype man of the legendary group Public Enemy, his oversized clock necklace, wild personality, and explosive stage presence made him one of the most recognizable figures in rap history. But behind the loud laughter and chaotic charm was a life spiraling out of control. For years, Flavor Flav struggled with severe drug addiction, including cocaine and crack. The addiction gradually fueled erratic behavior, arrests, and personal turmoil that repeatedly pulled him into legal trouble. Everything reached a breaking point in October 2012. Police were called to his home after reports of a violent domestic dispute. According to investigators, Flav had threatened his girlfriend and her teenage son with a knife, creating a terrifying scene inside the house. Officers quickly arrived and arrested him. The charges included domestic violence and assault with a deadly weapon, crimes that shocked many fans who had grown up watching him as a larger-than-life entertainer. In court, Flavor Flav eventually faced a sentence that included time in jail along with probation and counseling programs. Although he later attempted to rebuild his life and career, the incident permanently damaged the playful image he had cultivated for decades. For a man whose identity was built around entertainment and chaos, the moment proved how quickly that chaos could turn dangerously real. Fame can take people to unimaginable heights. But as these stories show, it can also expose the darkest sides of human nature. From legendary athletes to chart-topping rappers and Hollywood icons, each of these stars has reached the pinnacle of success. However, just one decision, one moment of anger, greed, or recklessness is enough to bring everything down. Maurice Clarett. Maurice Clarett was once one of the brightest young stars in American football. As a freshman running back for Ohio State University, he helped lead the team to a national championship and was widely predicted to become a future NFL superstar. But his promising career quickly unraveled. After conflicts with coaches and violations of NCAA rules, Clarett was suspended from the team, destroying his college football future. Frustrated and struggling to find direction, he began making reckless decisions. Everything collapsed in 2006. Police reported that Clarett had been involved in an armed robbery, threatening two people with a gun and stealing cash and personal belongings. Months later, he was arrested again after a dramatic police chase in which officers discovered multiple loaded firearms and a bulletproof vest inside his car. The charges were severe. In court, Clarett was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. For a man once destined for NFL glory, the fall was devastating. Instead of stadium cheers, his future was suddenly defined by prison walls and regret. Fat Joe. For years, Fat Joe was one of hip-hop's most recognizable figures. With hits like Lean Back and collaborations with major artists across the industry, he built a reputation as both a successful rapper and influential businessman. His music career brought millions in revenue and placed him among the biggest names in rap. But behind the success, financial trouble was quietly growing. Between 2007 and 2010, federal investigators later discovered that Fat Joe had failed to report more than $1 million in income to the IRS. Prosecutors said the rapper deliberately avoided paying taxes on earnings generated from concerts, music sales, and business ventures. When the investigation became public in 2012, the case quickly turned into another high-profile celebrity tax scandal. Fat Joe eventually pleaded guilty to tax evasion in federal court. In 2013, the judge sentenced him to 4 months in prison, along with financial penalties and repayment of the unpaid taxes. Compared to other celebrity cases, the prison term was relatively short. But the conviction still damaged his reputation and reminded the industry that even massive success doesn't shield anyone from financial accountability. For Fat Joe, the lesson was simple. In the eyes of the law, fame can't erase a debt. Lauryn Hill. In the late 1990s, Lauryn Hill was one of the most respected artists in music. Her album The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill became a cultural masterpiece, winning 5 Grammy Awards and influencing an entire generation of hip-hop and soul artists. But years after stepping away from the spotlight, Hill found herself facing a serious legal battle. Between 2005 and 2007, federal authorities discovered that she had failed to pay taxes on more than $1.8 million in income earned from music royalties and performances. According to prosecutors, Hill stopped filing tax returns entirely during those years. When the case reached court in 2013, Hill admitted she had made a serious mistake. She explained that she had withdrawn from the music industry and was dealing with personal and financial pressures during that period. However, the court still held her accountable. Lauryn Hill was sentenced to 3 months in federal prison, followed by house arrest and supervised release. For an artist once celebrated as one of music's most brilliant voices, the case became a painful chapter in an otherwise extraordinary legacy. Fame can take people to unimaginable heights. But as these stories show, it can also expose the darkest sides of human nature. From legendary athletes to chart-topping rappers and Hollywood icons, each of these stars has reached the pinnacle of success. However, just one decision, one moment of anger, greed, or recklessness is enough to bring everything down. Behind the glitz and glamour of celebrity life lies a harsh truth. Fame puts no one above the law. Which story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Black Icons Uncovered for more videos exploring the hidden aspects of celebrity history.